The National Desk, America's News Now.
Multiple severe storms across the country bringing widespread destruction. Who will be impacted most? And the diagnosis for Secretary Austin is in, and it comes with the fallout of his absence. Here are the reactions from the White House as well as Capitol Hill. And then Meta makes changes to its policy related to content available to teens, while new data suggests why some people are more likely than others to spend lots of time online. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Right now, intense storms are impacting more than half of the U.S. population. At least 3 people have died. More than 160 million Americans are under extreme wind alerts today, with gusts up to 75 miles an hour possible in some places. Now, the East Coast is getting soaked with heavy rain, and large areas of the Southeast have been flooded. More flooding is possible further up the East Coast tonight and into tomorrow morning. Parts of the South were hit with severe thunderstorms and tornadoes today, causing widespread destruction and baseball-sized hail. More tornadoes could still hit Florida and Georgia. Meantime, in the central U.S., seeing blizzards that could continue through the rest of the week. Several feet of snow have fallen in parts of the Pacific Northwest, and more is on the way there. More than 1,000 flights have been canceled today, according to FlightAware, and nearly 7,000 delayed. Many roads have also been closed. More than 320,000 people are still without power in the South, and tens of thousands in Washington state, according to poweroutage.us. Federal appeal judges are now considering arguments for and against Donald Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution from his time as president. This morning, the judges questioned Trump's attorneys how far this immunity should go and whether his impeachment should hold up as a verdict.
Under your interpretation of the impeachment judgment clause, if President Trump had been convicted when he was previously impeached on same or related conduct as that which is in this indictment, the government could properly prosecute him for that same or related conduct. Yes or no?
Potentially.
Legal experts have said the judges seem skeptical. Donald Trump said afterwards the proceedings went well.
I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. I'm working for the country. And I worked on very hard on voter fraud because we have to have free elections. We have to have strong borders. We have to have free elections.
The decision from the court could come quickly, maybe within days, but there is no deadline. Although if one of the judges dissents, it could take longer. The FAA announced that the Boeing 737 MAX 9 will continue to be grounded for the time being. Both Alaska Airlines and United have now reported many defects in their fleet investigations. Around 170 planes worldwide will be affected. The FAA has given no timetable for when this order will be lifted. The IRS is rolling out a free filing service just ahead of tax season that you should know about. Eligible taxpayers in 12 states can use the Direct File pilot program, cutting out the need to pay for a service like TurboTax. Some say the system can make it easier to file, while critics say it gives the IRS more power over taxpayers. The agency will determine if it can offer the service nationwide. For everyone else, you can get a jump start on your federal income taxes starting January 29th. That's when the IRS will start accepting 2023 returns. The agency expecting more than 128 million tax returns to be filed by that April 15th deadline. The former gang leader charged with coordinating the killing of Tupac Shakur can serve house arrest until his trial in June. That's what a judge decided today. Attorneys for Dwayne Keffe D. Davis argue he doesn't pose a threat to the public. His bail is set at $750,000 and he's expected to post it. Prosecutors point to Davis's own words as evidence that he provided the gun that was used in that 1996 shooting. Crews have been digging through the debris following an explosion at a hotel in Fort Worth, Texas, where at least 21 people were hurt yesterday. 15 people were taken to hospitals. Fire officials say search and rescue operations continued overnight into this morning using specially trained dogs. No additional victims have been found. Officials believe a gas leak may be to blame. The White House Chief of Staff has issued new guidelines to all cabinet members that they must immediately notify the executive office if they can't perform their duties. President Biden has been criticized for not knowing that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was in the hospital for a week, stemming from complications from a surgery. And today we are learning that Austin was being treated for a urinary tract infection. That's according to doctors at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. The infection was due to a complication after he underwent surgery for prostate cancer that happened back in December. Doctors say he is in good condition and his infection is gone, but it's unclear when he'll be released from the hospital. Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale will be filing articles of impeachment against Austin tonight when the House reconvenes at 6:30 p.m. as confirmed by the National Desk. The congressman says Austin compromised the chain of command and put the nation's security at risk by not being available. This sentiment is shared by members of the Senate.
It's a little crazy that we effectively lost track of the arguably the second most important person in the government, which is the Secretary of Defense. So I think it reflects really poorly on the White House. It reflects very poorly on the leadership of the Department of Defense. And if this isn't cause for resignation and actually finding somebody who can do the job, I don't know what is.
And tonight, the widening crisis at our southern border is putting a renewed focus on the magnitude of what is needed for those already in our country and how to best respond at the border itself. These questions will loom large on Wednesday over the first impeachment hearing on Capitol Hill against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzau.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas this week praising the work of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol on the front lines of what he says has been a global challenge.
It is a challenge that countries throughout the Western Hemisphere are experiencing. It is also a challenge that is, quite frankly, gripping the entire world.
And while the numbers of those coming has broken records, Secretary Mayorkas disagrees with those who say the border is open.
We are delivering consequences for individuals who do not use those lawful pathways.
But that statement seems to contradict what he reportedly told CBP agents in private, that 85% of those who arrive at the border are being released into the United States as they await their asylum hearings, with a renewed focus on how they're cared for as they wait.
If you send us someone to Denver who has to wait 6 years for a court hearing and they can't work in the meantime, we're going to need almost endless amounts of federal support.
That federal support for food and shelter, health care, and education.
If you take 1/4 of the encounters that we saw in December alone and say that those were 75,000 kids, kindergarten through 12, that somebody has to pay to educate. Guess who that somebody is? It's the American public.
The American public growing more weary as shelters reach capacity and local resources run out, while the debate plays out over solutions.
The solution is to stop the flow. The solution is to seal the border.
The chaos and lawlessness at our borders right now is not going to be solved by throwing more money at it. We have to change the open border policies of this administration.
Some Democrats calling for a more streamlined system.
Would you shorten the path to citizenship?
I think we need to clarify it. We need to make it easier.
Things are not expected to be getting easier for Secretary Mayorkas as Republicans hold that first impeachment hearing against him tomorrow here on Capitol Hill. Amira?
And Christine, what are some of the key arguments we can expect to hear from House Republicans tomorrow?
So we expect them to go into detail to back up some of their main points on why Mayorkas should be impeached. First, that he has refused to enforce the laws. And second, they say he's misused taxpayer dollars.
Amira? All right. We will be watching. Christine Frizzau reporting in D.C. for us. Thank you. And coming up, the Secretary of State in Israel again today. What came out of his meeting with the country's leaders? Then an emergency warning from the Red Cross about the country's blood supply, what they're asking for from Americans. And later, more and more people are participating in Dry January. What inspired one man to start a sober bar? We'll be right back. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Israel today. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli President Isaac Herzog to talk about completing the war in Gaza, as well as what a post-war Palestinian state could look like.
This crisis has clarified you can't have one without the other, and you can't achieve either goal without an integrated regional approach. To make this possible, Israel must be a partner to Palestinian leaders who are willing to lead their people in living side by side in peace with Israel and as neighbors.
Israel's defense minister stressed to Blinken the necessity for Israel to finish the war in order to preserve security for Israel and its citizens, and that the ongoing operations will intensify, especially in the Khan Yunis area that's in southern Gaza, until they reach the heads of Hamas and see a return of all hostages taken on October 7th. As far as hostage negotiations go, Ismail Haniyeh, the political head of Hamas, who is in Doha, Qatar, said the hostages taken will only be released if and when Israel releases all of the Palestinians they hold in detention. In December, NPR estimated 7,000 Palestinians were in Israeli jails, held on everything from terrorism to activism. The Associated Press reporting at least 1,200 of them are being held without charge or trial. On their northern border, Israel braces for more Hezbollah retaliation. This as Israel claimed it killed another Hezbollah military commander today. It is the third high-level target taken out within just the past week. Ali Hosseini Barji was said to be behind the drone strike that hit the IDF's northern command early this morning. That attack was in response to yesterday's killing of another Hezbollah commander. And New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez is speaking out about the criminal allegations against him. It comes after last week's third allegation was filed, saying Menendez made statements supporting the Qatari government to help a New Jersey developer secure a lucrative deal. The senator said that any government official who travels overseas to meet with a foreign country could now be subject to prosecution. He called the charges political and maintained he won't resign.
The United States Attorney's Office is engaged not in a prosecution, but a persecution. They seek a victory, not justice. I have received nothing, absolutely nothing, from the government of Qatar or on behalf of the government of Qatar.
On the House side, Republicans continue to dig into the Biden family business and how exactly they made their millions. This comes as House Republicans move to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress for defying his subpoena. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins with more.
In the latest attempt to figure out how the Bidens amassed their wealth and if it was legal, House Republicans bringing in Hunter Biden's art dealer for a closed-door deposition Tuesday.
We have no idea what this family did to receive the millions of dollars they received from our enemies around the world.
House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer wants to find out if foreign buyers with ulterior motives bought any of Hunter's paintings, some fetching up to $500,000. A price tag art critics concede is extremely high for an unestablished painter. The art dealer's testimony is part of an ongoing investigation into the Biden family's foreign business deals. It comes as House Republicans ramp up their impeachment probe into President Biden, alleging he was involved in and profited from those deals. Meanwhile, House Republicans moving forward and recommending Hunter Biden be held in contempt of Congress for snubbing his subpoena last month.
I think we're sending a message loud and clear. We expect people to comply with our lawful subpoenas, regardless of what your last name is, and the days of the federal government turning a blind eye to the president's family's corruption is over.
Republicans asserting Hunter Biden's testimony is a critical component of the impeachment inquiry into President Biden.
They have no evidence showing that President Biden received payments from foreign actors, but they're spending their time searching for evidence that may or may not be there.
Bringing contempt charges against Hunter Biden will ultimately be up to the Justice Department. Republicans say it's a chance for Merrick Garland to prove there's not a two-tiered justice system, considering Biden's DOJ brought contempt charges against two former Trump officials for refusing to comply with subpoenas from the January 6th Select Committee.
Comer says they hope to take the contempt of Congress resolution for Hunter Biden to the House floor for a vote as early as next week. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Okay, Kayla, thank you. The man who some people on the right believe is a government agent has been sentenced to a year of probation for his actions during the January 6th, 2021 Capitol attack. Prosecutors say former Arizona resident Ray Epps told people to enter the Capitol and helped push a sign into police officers. Epps denied claims that he was a government plant and expressed regret over what he did. Another U.S. national, meantime, has been arrested and held in Russia on drug possession and drug trafficking charges. Robert Romanov Woodland will be held for 2 months for pretrial restrictions, and he now faces 20 years behind bars. Women's basketball star Brittany Griner was arrested for similar charges and was released in a prisoner swap. Americans Paul Whelan and Evan Gerskovich remain in Russian custody, both under arrest for espionage. The U.S. government say they are both wrongfully detained. And new tonight, Ford is recalling another 140,000 vehicles, 2016 to 18 Ford Focus cars, as well as 2018 to 22 EcoSport vehicles are at risk of losing oil pressure due to a drive belt failure. This could lead to an engine stall or loss of power braking, leading to an increased crash risk. Owners of these cars can get these fixed free of charge. It's the company's second recall in just the last week. And the American Red Cross now says the nation's blood supply is falling to critically low levels. In declaring an emergency, the group says the number of people donating is at its lowest in 20 years, dropping about 40% over that time. They say an additional 8,000 blood donations are needed each week in January to keep up with hospital demand. The Red Cross says they're especially in need of platelets and blood from type O donors. Your drinking water could be full of tiny plastic particles. We now know that average bottled water contains around 240,000 nanoplastic pieces per liter. A new study in PNAS looked at 3 popular brands of bottled water and found that a liter contains up to 400,000 of these particles. Researchers are still trying to understand how nanoplastics could impact a person's health. FDA officials say they found another possible metal contaminant in the previously recalled applesauce. They're investigating during their testing. They are looking now at chromium. The CDC says chromium occurs naturally in two forms, one of which is a carcinogen, and they believe that is the new danger. If you or a relative ate these products, you are urged to consult a healthcare professional. Meta will start restricting content that appears in teens' Facebook and Instagram feeds. Posts about things like self-harm, eating disorders, and mental illness were already limited in the Reels and Explore sections, but this update takes it a step further. The company now says it will prompt teenagers to change their settings to increase their account privacy. Could some of us be destined to spend more time on social media? Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares new research which says it is possible based on a new discovery.
Hey there, everybody. Hello to you. This discovery is a connection through a level in your blood that measures inflammation. New research just published in the journal Brain Behavior and Immunity shows a surprising finding between social media use and inflammation in the body. Inflammation is often called a quiet killer in the body. It can raise your risk of heart disease and other serious joint problems such as arthritis. You measure inflammation through a level in the blood called C-reactive protein. When researchers looked at more than 500 young adults who were participating in a social media study, they found those who use social media a lot have a higher level of C-reactive protein in the blood. Researchers found even when they adjusted for other factors such as depression, personality type, and gender, in all of the subjects, people who were drawn to social media had this higher level of C-reactive protein. Nobody is quite sure why, but public health providers do say this.
All the time you're on social media, you're not active. And you need to be active to really, speed up your body to reduce inflammation. By inflammation, that is just your body sort of, reacting and not being able to fight infections and things like that.
So are some of us more wired to use this media physically, or do we get this level climbing when we spend more time on Facebook, X, and Instagram? Since it's too soon to really know the answer to that, researchers say it's something to explore because it could help us target who's at risk for prolonged social media use or maybe even addiction to it. In the meantime, if you want to know more about your levels of inflammation, ask your doctor to check your C-reactive protein. It's a simple blood test. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Up next, we talk to a man in Texas about what led him to create a non-alcoholic bar. We have reporters all across the country covering issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
It tastes like it and it looks like it, but it's not.
We're seeing people just rush into the bar excited about our non-alcoholic beverages.
Chris Marshall is the owner of Sands Bar, a non-alcoholic bar in downtown Austin. He founded Sands Bar after his own sobriety journey.
I had my first drink at 16, and by the time I was 23, I was in really bad shape. And as part of my sobriety journey, discovered that I wanted to help people.
Marshall says business has been booming.
Sales are just exploding year over year. My favorite drink at the moment is our Sansgarita. And it's just a take on a margarita.
California gun owners with concealed weapons permits can freely carry their weapons in most places again, thanks to a 3-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Late Saturday, that panel dissolved a stay that had allowed a new state law, SB 2, to go into effect January 1st. That law banned CCW permit holders from carrying guns into a wide range of new, sensitive places, including churches, parks, hospitals, sports stadiums, and private businesses that do not specifically post signs allowing the carrying of concealed weapons on premises, essentially gutting Second Amendment rights, critics say.
Very severe restrictions that are being placed on people that, quite frankly, go completely against the Constitution.
Crews are working hard at Bathtub Beach right now, installing a steel wall, which will run 16 feet underground and help protect the beach. The total cost of this project will be about $5.5 million. The county will pay for about 25% of that. While some residents aren't thrilled that the beach is closed, they'd rather see this project happen than have the beach continue to erode.
We've been closing it part-time for years and having to replenish all the things. So it looks like we're taking a very expensive action, but I'm sure they've researched it and it's a necessary action.
Well, no astronauts on the moon until at least 2026. NASA announcing today it would delay plans for the first human moon landing in over 50 years by a year. It comes after Pittsburgh-based Astrobotic Technology said it's just giving up on trying to land its spacecraft on the moon because of a propellant leak. The company would have been the first private business to do so. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for watching.